interview. So,
all right. Yeah, I mean,
right.
I was gonna message you and be like, hey, you got like a list of questions you're gonna go through, but
we'll just freestyle
right.
it. We'll just freestyle it. And I'm hoping that everybody asks us some tough questions. So we are live.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Hopefully people will start to jump in here in a minute, but just wanted to welcome everybody here to our live stream. We used to do a bunch of interviews in the past where Greg and I would interview agents, and we wanted to bring back some of these interviews. So we have Rustin Scott. Rustin, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. So we were thinking that Rustin would be a really fun person to interview. Rustin was previously on a very successful team with another brokerage, and recently broke off on his own as a solo realtor. And we just want to see how that was going. And I know there's a lot of people who either are thinking about joining a team or wanting to leave a team or start a team or go solo or all this kind of stuff, right? So I thought you would just be a really interesting person for a lot of people to hear from. So if you are watching and you have a question for Rustin, fire it into the chat room window down there, and we will absolutely pitch it over to Rustin here. So where should we start? Rustin, how long have you been in real estate?
All right, so I became an agent in 2014, so I'm coming up on 9 years. And before that, I was a loan officer. So I was still within the real estate industry. And I think that really helped lead to more success early on. And so, I mean, I've been doing it a while, but as an actual agent, 2014. So coming up on 9 years.
So how long were you a lender?
Almost 9 years.
Wow. So you're definitely like nearing 20 years in here pretty quick.
I'm getting there. I mean, I graduated college from Grand Valley at like 20. I just had turned 22. And then just jumped right into the mortgage world 3 months later. And obviously I went through the whole downturn in 2008, which was super interesting because everybody's like, oh man, that must have been a really difficult time. And honestly, I did so many refinances that it was amazing because the rates dropped so low from the previous 5 or 6 years. And I was a refi machine. So I had some really good years those years.
Yeah, those refis were a lifeline for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's funny because they were a lifeline for a lot of realtors the last few, or loan officers the last few years. And now we're hearing from a lot of them again.
Very true. Very true. So you did 9 years of lending, and then you joined. Did you go straight from that to the Brace team over there at Berkshire? I
did. Yeah. I talked to a few different brokers before making the switch from loan officer to real estate agent. And, I was signed on to start with another broker. And then I got a call like the Friday before, and somebody was like, Mark's looking for a buyer's agent. You should call him. So I called him that day, met him at 6 o'clock that night. And then I was on his team early the next week. So it happened really fast. And, like you said, like there's a lot of people wondering about being on a team or switching from being on a team or starting a team. And that's kind of where I'm at right now is, do I start a team? And, we can talk about that later if we want, but yeah, I felt as a newer agent, being on a team was super helpful because really as a new agent, you really need that guidance. You need a mentor. And I felt like I was going to have that on the team. And so I really felt like going on a team was the way to go as a new agent. And I'm glad I did that. I learned a lot, had a good mentor, and it was great. I mean, I still worked really hard and I still had my book of business that I was working on, but still had some lead generation coming in from the team aspect, which is super helpful. And I think that's kind of the main reason why people join teams is, either the camaraderie or for lead generation or what have you. So it was a good setup for me. And honestly, I'd encourage newer agents to maybe even consider doing that if they're struggling or they need a coach or anything like that. Because really, people go, well, I don't want to be on a team because of the splits or whatever. But I got some really good words of wisdom from an agent before I became an agent. And it was, what's 100% of zero? Well, it's zero. So, good luck. You might have the best split in the world, but if you're not closing anything, what does that really matter? So, what are you getting what's the trade-off with that split? And I think that's what people forget about when they start talking to different brokers and whatnot.
When you were newer into real estate and you joined the team, what was your ratio of like lead gen from the team versus your personal kind of sphere and book of business?
That's a great question. And honestly, I have a finance degree, so I love my spreadsheets. So I can actually go back to the very first year. So 2014, I joined in April, and I closed 17 deals that first year through the end of the year. 44% of that was referral business from my sphere. Wow. The next year I jumped. I worked really hard. I did 50 transactions in 2015, my first full year. 50 transactions your first year. Yeah. And the self-generated and then the brace leads is what we'll call them. I was 70-30. So it's 30% self-generated, 70%, team. Yep. And each year, obviously, it's going to vary a little bit. The next year, it went from 65-35, and gradually it just kind of became all just my own referrals, sphere, past clients. I mean, obviously, some people move after a year, and so you start getting some of that repeat business. And I think that's kind of the key is, staying in contact with those people. And that made me feel confident when I seen the ratios. I mean, the ratios were fine probably 3 years ago, but I was comfortable, and, the brace team treated me well. And so there wasn't a whole lot of motivation to leave. We had the whole uncertainty with the COVID pandemic. And so I just was like, well, I better just stay here for a little bit. There's nothing wrong. Don't fix it if it's not broke. So ratios were fine a few years ago. Sure, I made the switch a few years ago, probably. But here I am. Yep. So you said, I want to hear about, okay, so you did 9 years on the brace team. You're now solo. You've been solo. Actually, our first time talking was what, about almost a year ago, right? It would have been sometime in February. We did a live stream. We did a Zoom call together. Yeah, it was actually early March. It was early March. Okay. Yep. I joined over. It's easy for me to remember. It was my father's birthday. It was March 23rd is my anniversary date here. Okay. So, so there was a few things that happened. We don't need to get into any of that, but there was conversations I had with Mark and kind of, I met with him probably once a month with like a breakfast meeting. And then we kind of talked about where things were. I had a meeting. I didn't really like how it went and determined that it was time. I had been thinking about it for a long time. So I got kind of pushed over the edge and was like, it's time for me to do this. And even just like a personal growth thing is like me and my wife would talk about it for a few years. Like, should we make the switch or, should I go out on my own? And it was just time. Yeah. So
hey, Rustin, quick question, Rustin, how many hours? I mean, it sounds like you kind of know your numbers here. So let's so everybody can understand, to do 50 transactions, I'm going to guess you weren't able to accomplish that in 20 hours a week.
No, absolutely not. So I'll give you guys a little bit of personal insight, and you can kind of see kind of why I go back and forth on, do I start a team? In the summer of 2015, so I was just a little bit over a year into it. I came home one night. It was an August evening. I can't remember exact date or whatever, but I came home and my wife was in tears, and I can't, because I showed up at like 10:30 at night. And she's in tears. She's like, I haven't seen you in days. I mean, I see you for 5 minutes, then you're gone. And she was like, I want you to find a different job. I want you to go back to being a loan officer. And I was like, well, I definitely don't want to do that. So I was like, just hang in there for like another month. Once school gets back in session, I'll slow down. So I've made a conscious effort of doing that ever since. If I feel like I'm not balanced, then I back off. And so to answer your question, Greg, I mean, I'd leave between 8 and 9 every morning, and I'd get home between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. But it pays dividends to work that hard, especially at the beginning, to get your book of business established. I mean, the very next year, so that was 2015. In 2016, I slowed down a little bit and did 43 transactions. And then I got a little bit more efficient, and then I was back at 48 to 50, and that's about where I like to keep it right now. Could I do more? Yeah, I could, but what does that do to the balance that I have? And there's extracurricular activities that I like to do. So and being on a team, that is a huge plus. Being on a team is, if you want to do something or go on vacation, you have people to back you up possibly. It kind of wasn't that same way at the end on the Brace team. It didn't seem like anybody wanted to help each other out. We all just wanted to hire a showing agent. So that's kind of another piece of the puzzle. But so I worked a lot. I mean, I was probably between 60 to 80 hours a week that first year, depending on the week and depending on the time of the year.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, you're right. It takes a lot of energy in the beginning to get that ball rolling uphill, so to speak. So,
well, we've always said, Paul, that when you're starting something new, that the pilot of an airplane, he doesn't push that throttle down part way to get off the ground and lift. He jams it all the way forward. And I think sometimes that people think that they can kind of come in and go part way, but in reality,
kind of slowly, gradually build. It happens sometimes, but you're right. The most stress that a plane is under is probably right in the beginning at takeoff, right?
Right. Absolutely.
That's very, very true. I mean, we absolutely see a correlation in like long-term trajectory, or like that trajectory of an agent. If they can take off very quickly and then get some deals going under their belt fast, they get that momentum rolling, versus the slow played agent who kind of like, hey, just kind of slowly working into it. That agent is a much flatter trajectory in the start. But so Rustin, you're almost 12 months into being solo. I mean, any surprises, anything being different? I mean, is it just what you expected to be because you were basically kind of so self-sufficient previously that nothing's different at all, or what's it like?
It's different. And I think, making the switch over to 5-star, side note, I actually looked at 5-star in 2014. But I didn't join then. But I always liked a lot of what was said. I just wanted the team aspect, so that's why I didn't go with 5-star then. But so 5-star has been in the back of my head since. But I did talk to other brokers definitely before signing on with you guys, and I think that's a huge part of the success. I love it here. So great. Thank you for having me. But the key component of that is, what are you looking for in your broker? And what I needed leaving a team is here. The marketing help, if I need that, the broker support when I need that. And that's kind of the two main things I was looking for. And so having those things, and then I already had systems in place. I've got my spreadsheets, I've got canned emails and all that. And so I'd say the only hiccup I really had moving over was email integration, because everything was tied to Berkshire Hathaway and Mark's team. And so not only did I lose a lot of emails, but I also lost my calendar. So I mean, I was getting texts like, are you coming to this meeting? And I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea about it. So that was a hiccup. And then I would say a little bit of the transaction coordination aspect, which I could hire that out. But I also, the first 2.5 years being on the Brace team, we didn't even have a transaction coordinator. So I remember shuffling 17 deals at one time. So it's not something I can't handle, but it was more or less finding my old canned emails to shoot out to lenders or title companies or other agents or to the clients and just make things really simple. I think, I worked so hard those first couple of years, and then I started working on efficiency, not just efficiency with those things like email and the process, but also just for showings and appointments and being more conscious of, drive times. That first year I'd drive to maybe Cedar Springs to Wayland, back to Rockford, and then home, and that's 4 hours of driving. It's like, holy crap. So being a little bit more efficient has been big too. So, I think that's really led to a lot of success, is already having kind of a game plan with the transfer, but also being at the right place.
So Paul,
where you might be lacking. Go ahead, Greg.
All right. So Paul, can I change just the course of this a little bit?
Sure, please.
And then we can go back to where you were headed maybe. But so one of the things that I think agents are dealing with right now is, how do you appear to be the expert and the pro? And what are you trying to do when you, in what I'm going to call the conversation, when you meet somebody, or what are the things that you focus on right now in this market so that they walk away feeling like, okay, I'm working with a pro here. He knows what he's doing. I mean, I'm going to guess that you don't say, hey, I just sold 50 homes last year. And I'm going to guess it's something totally different that you have developed that you believe is the right way to express who you are, and let them know at the same time that you are competent and that you understand the marketplace. So I'm just wondering, what's the conversation that you're having right now with people, buyers and sellers?
A lot of it goes back to just the simple supply and demand. I think that's the easiest thing for most consumers to really digest, because they've heard it before. They understand it. It's kind of a more simplistic way of explaining things. But also, when we talk about supply and demand, a big part of that is breaking those down. So let's break down demand. Well, what's going on in the greater national news? Well, demand has definitely slowed, right? So why? Well, look at the interest rates. I mean, that's the easy one, right? You can dive into that, but then you need to talk more also about just the local market. So, Grand Rapids, sure, are we going to feel a little bit of a slowdown? Yeah, we did, but it's also very seasonal. I mean, we're already talking about multiple offers on properties again. Look at the number of active listings in the G market right now. It's at 731, I think, last I looked, and I think that was yesterday or the day before. If you can rattle off those numbers, people are like, holy cow, this guy really pays attention to the temperature of the market. And obviously, like, I have my mortgage background, so I can talk about mortgages all day if people really want to, but they usually get pretty bored. But having that piece and having that knowledge is super helpful, because then you can talk about how the interest rates affect everything. Because think about this, and this is probably a conversation a lot of people aren't having. People go, well, I'm not going to move till the interest rates move, the market's going to slow way down because of the mortgage rates. Well, okay, now let's talk about the supply and demand part of this again. Yep. What do you think that interest rate's going up? We already talked about demand. What is that going to do to supply? Think about all the people that are in a mortgage rate from the last 3 years that are sitting at 3%. You think they want to move? No. So that's going to continue to keep our supply level down, isn't it? And then they're like, oh yeah, you're right. So here we are, we have 700 houses for sale, and we're probably going to continue to deplete that through at least March. We always do. If you know those general trends, just explaining those. But I think, to answer your question, Greg, because then I'll rattle on, but if you just keep it simple with supply and demand, and then you talk about the few points that you are knowledgeable about and how those points impact that supply and demand curve.
So, okay, let me move it over to the seller side here a little bit, in terms of, is this a good time to sell? I mean, we're coming up, we're another month or so away from what I would call the typical spring market. Spring markets always, to me, seem to happen sooner than everybody else thought. People start, they're going to do something in April, but really they're talking about it now, and they're selecting an agent now. And so they need to know, is this the right time in February of 23? Is this the right time to get my house on the market, get it ready and move?
I don't like telling people to wait, but I will. I mean, I told sellers in December, like, why don't we wait until, and you kind of just have a gauge on the market. You know, look, we had 1,100 homes for sale a month and a half ago, and now we're at 700. So where are we going? Yeah. And it happens every spring. We just keep dropping, and then the buyer demand comes in pretty much around in about 2 weeks, I'd say, because what happens in February? Well, everybody gets their tax returns, and then they're ready to shop for a house. So, you know, if you time it right, then great. I mean, I remember when the mortgage rates really started moving last year, I had several sellers that were like, we're going to wait till the summer, we're going to wait till the summer. And I was like, I'd get that thing listed now. So we listed in May. Great. They were super happy that they pushed it up because it all worked out. But I'd say, again, you know, I'm talking to sellers and saying, we are definitely depleting our inventory right now. So if we need to list now, let's do it. I think it's still a good time because we are starting to see those buyers come back, especially because the mortgage rates have kind of leveled out. I mean, they're not obviously low as low as they were, but they're definitely sitting a lot lower than they have been the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the buyers are back, you know, the buyers are definitely coming back.
We're hearing that right now. We're hearing like, I've been hearing more lenders talk about how their applications are up like 28% right now. And like, so things are starting to happen. So really quickly, I want to hear about like when you went solo and you're like, okay, I'm on this thing. There's no one buying leads. This is the only thing I've got. This is it, right? What do you do to communicate with your sphere? How do you work to get those 50 deals per year? Like, what are you doing daily and weekly and monthly to try and maintain those relationships and foster those relationships and stay in touch?
Yeah, you know, you can kind of categorize them. You have your A+ clients that you absolutely love. They love on you. They send you referrals and things like that. So you really want to kind of break them down, you know, and those are your focus always. And so those are like your best friends, right? You're going to text them or call them every so often. You know, I send personal letters. And I also send them, like, you know, I try to make a few touch points, maybe not every month, maybe every other. Like I'm going to do St. Patty's Day one because everybody just from the last year at least is getting their settlement statement for their CPA.
Yep.
So we send that out from all the closings last year.
Okay, so you send out everyone's closing statements, just whether they ask them for them or not. It's like,
yeah,
hey,
you know, your CPA is going to probably want this. Here you go. You know, that's an easy one to touch point. I'll do a St. Patty's Day one. I did Christmas, and I send them a family. The same one I send my whole entire family goes out to my clients. You know, and I get so much good feedback on that. They're like, oh, thanks for sending a card. You know, sorry we didn't get one out to you this year. We'll make sure to get one out to you last year, or we didn't do one this year, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's a touch point, and so it's super easy. It's just sitting down and doing it. You know, so.
Do you have a list of reminders? Do you have like a calendar set up where it's like, these are like, you just remind yourself to think of that touch point because it's so easy to get on autopilot. Like this is the thing you oftentimes see is that people will start looking at the busy work for the day as the job. And they start going, oh, I've got a couple deals in the works. So they fill their time with all the stuff going around those deals. And then they forget all the past clients and they go maybe 6 months like, oh shoot, I haven't done anything for my sphere yet. Like, how do you remember to do it? Do you have like you're just like in your brain, or do you have like a reminder switch?
No, I'm not gonna lie. I don't have a system like that. I just kind of think, okay, you know, every other month. So
you think it's not every month. You just know there's a rhythm of I've got to do something this month.
Yeah. So like last year, I kind of failed on that because I was so busy with the switch, and then just I got busy. I had, you know,
exactly.
So like I didn't get to do my client appreciation events that I would always do under the Brace team. So like that's like my focus right now is getting something set up for May for that, and then also do another one in the fall. So it's just those touch points. And you know, last year I had the touch point of, hey, I switched, I'm out on my own, and I had such good response from that and good feedback. And A lot of people super supportive. I mean, the support I got with the switch was amazing, honestly.
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that on social media. It was like you had an unbelievable outpouring of people commenting and liking, and it was like, it was hundreds of people.
Yeah, I think, I had probably like 40 shares or something ridiculous, but it was awesome. And it's just it was a really good touch point. And I think it really did help jumpstart. And you have to ask people to do those things sometimes, but that one I didn't. Everybody just was super supportive, and that was great. But yeah, I mean, I'll ask family members or something, hey, if you don't mind sharing when I do a real estate post. I don't like doing a ton of real estate posts because do people really care?
Yeah. I sometimes think, I think, Rustin, the danger of too much self-promotion, right, is people hit the mute button, or they click unfollow or stop hearing his updates.
Yeah, and my wife always says, hey, you should probably do a real estate post, so I try to do at least maybe one a month to just remind people, hey, I'm a real estate agent, because nothing's worse than going through your timeline or on social media and seeing that one of your friends bought a house without you.
Oh man.
But it happens, and everybody knows 5 agents right now on average. So you gotta kind of just say next and roll with it. But you always wonder, like, hey, did they just forget about me or what? So I don't like to blow people up and just, hey, I'm in real estate, I'm in real estate, I'm in real estate on social media. I kind of just do. It's more quality versus quantity.
Yeah, it seems like your mix is working for you.
Yeah.
So you had we had one question. They said, hey, do you use any sort of lead generation tools or platforms like maybe the Brace team had? Are you implementing any lead gen into your world now, or is it all Sphere?
That's a great question. So we did a lot of online leads on the Brace team, and that worked out really well. But you got to remember that I feel as though it's quantity or economies of scale, if you know what that is. It's a marketing term or economical term or whatever. But with the Brace team, there's a huge spend there of online leads, and you have to spend a lot in order for it to work, and you have to be able to work those leads correctly. And so would I recommend that to new agents? Probably not, unless you've really got a big pocketbook. My whole thing, another reason why I wanted to go off on my own was geographical area. So, Mark Brace team is more east side of Grand Rapids. I live on the west side. I have family in Muskegon. So Grand Rapids and Lakeshore is kind of where I want to focus, and I want to build that. I live over here. And so that's a huge part of why I left. So to get my name out there more in my geographical location, which is like the Coopersville area, and I know Lori's got this area kind of locked down, which is fine. I'll just take a piece of the pie. But doing things like some Zillow spend in those zip codes around me, I do a little bit of that, but I don't spend more than $1,000 on it a month. Has it paid off for me? Yes, it has. I can convert those leads. I'm pretty good with those leads because I've been trained to do them, and I just, it's just one of those things. Like, I work those leads when I get them. But it's definitely not a focus for me. I don't want it to be a focus because I don't really love working those leads. Sometimes they pan out great, sometimes they don't.
Right.
Do I start a team and grow that spend? I don't know, maybe, but I don't necessarily want to work 80 hours a week either.
Is that your biggest hesitation with growing a team here? Is that you don't want to be burying yourself in the work of managing people and managing expectations and holding people accountable and all that comes along with the team?
I think that I really actually enjoy mentoring new agents. I trained like 2 or 3 of the agents that joined the Brace team before I left, and I enjoy that. I think that is something that I could totally do. I think it's just finding the right fit for the culture that I'd want to develop. So, and if the right person comes along and they're ready to join and whatnot, then maybe get a hold of me.
Yeah,
We'll see
sure.
we'll see where
Right.
the conversation goes. I don't want to say I would never do it. It's definitely something, again, that I wanted to be on my own for at least a year before making any sort of determination on if that's the next step for me. So I'm coming up on that year, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, congrats on a great first year at 5-star. I think you landed yourself right near the top of the list somewhere, didn't you?
Yeah, I think number 5 individually.
Nice.
So
Well, congratulations,
I
man.
think that's what it was. So
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's awesome. Greg, you have any final thoughts here? Oh, he's.
Well, just I would like to thank you, Rustin, for taking the time here out of your out of your schedule, and I'm hoping that in some of the comments that you made here today, that some agents are doing a little self-reflecting after hearing some of the things you've talked about, and you never know, which sentence or whatever might have impact on somebody else. And so we appreciate you taking that time out of your day again, and possibly spurring an agent on here. And it could make a difference in their future. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it anytime.
Thanks, Rustin. Have a great day, man. And really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
All right, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
Adios.
All right. See you.